Operation status quo. Operation status quo. Prepare to engage. Operation status quo. Ready to engage. Operation status quo. Engaged. Engaged. Hello, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to Operation Status Quo here on a Wednesday. Woo, moving through the week and having a good time, as we always do, here on Operation Status Quo. Ladies and gentlemen, of course, I am Pete Palmer, your user-friendly host, broadcasting live from the comfy confines of my very own home. And today, ladies and gentlemen, first of all, let me just say quick, of course, this is Operation Status Quo, the place where we observe the status quo of life, where we learn to flow with the status quo of life. And then, of course, we create our own flow of quo, because that's the only way to go. So we're not wasting any time today. We have a very special guest. Today is the 13th of December in the good year 2023, and today's program is indeed entitled Ron's Basement. And just as the title says, we are with our good friend Ron from Ron's Basement. Second time the guy, I can't believe it, he's back. He's a glutton for punishment, and I appreciate it.
Heyo.
Hey Ron, how you doing today? And thanks for being with us here today on Operation Status Quo.
Well, once I unmute my mic, it's great. What am I supposed to say? Ron's Basement, engaging. Ron's Basement, engaging.
You have
Ron's Basement.
You have so many of your own little. You have the gong. You break out the gong. What do you want to do?
I'll ring the gong for you later, Peter. If you behave yourself, I'll ring the gong.
I appreciate it, but just before I even start, just to let you know, because I know you said you're looking for a train whistle next, and of course I have a bell too, because I worked in radio for years. I also have this little guy that makes. So these are other little things. Yeah. Maybe you want to get yourself a horn. You can do that too. And of course, I have the whistle. I got this whistle from my grandpa in his Navy days. So we have one of those. And last but not least, we have the harmonica. So anyway, we have all the extras here that we need. If you need any kind of sound effects, just let me know.
Sounds like a plan.
So, but first, for those that don't know, Ron does a show on YouTube called Ron's Basement, where he talks about precious metals and the conditions of gold and silver and such. And first and foremost, I'd like to really congratulate you on how your channel has grown. When you and I first connected, you were just trying to get to about 10,000 subscribers. Now you're up to over 30,000, and you've interviewed so many wonderful guests on your show. So I just want to give you some accolades. And I know it's not easy to get in the algorithm and make things happen. I know you put a lot of work into it. So, thanks for all you do to get those messages out about the precious metals and what's going on out there.
Well, thank you, Peter. Yeah, it's been quite enjoyable to get to connect with people. And I know that's what you're doing as well, right? Like this is not called Peter Tube or Ron Tube. It's called YouTube.
That's right.
Because it's about the people. And, you and I are talking right now, but the most important person is that person who's joining us.
Yes.
And if we can provide them with some value, some education, some entertainment, then we are doing our job. So, it's a big honor for me to be on your show, and thank you for having me.
No problem. Thank you. So just to get into it, as far as to try to encapsulate everything, I know people who watch you already know information about, gold and silver. I speak on it sometimes of the importance of it because I'm newer to it. It wasn't something I ever thought of when I was younger, but, as I see how things have progressed and what I've learned over this time, I see such value in it. So, I know it's a loaded question, a big question, but in a sense, based on everything you've been doing through this time and where we are today geopolitically and with our banking systems and everything else, what do you think you really see as far as progression realistically? I know we joke all the time, 600, 1,000, 65, it changes every day, but what do you really think?
Yeah, well, let's just let our viewers know right now that in the next 25 minutes, you and I are going to provide all the answers, all the solutions. We're basically going to figure out all the problems in the world. Right,
That's
Peter?
Great. I'm glad. Thank God, because I'd like to have that taken care of myself.
Yeah. Well, I think, you asked a very broad question about silver and gold. And I think it's interesting because I just had a guest here live in the basement, a guy named Bill Hardwick. He's a state representative here in Missouri, and he is pushing through some legal tender legislation, gold and silver legal tender legislation here in the state of Missouri. And very smart guy, super smart guy. One of the best conversations really I've ever had in my last 2 years. And I think, at the end, we both kind of agreed, you can say a lot of things. I mean, we all know what's going on in the world. We know it's crazy out there. We know that people are feeling confused. They're feeling angry. Prices are going up, inflation. People just know, you just don't have to have one job now. You get to have two or three or four jobs. People have this feeling of uneasiness. And if we take a step back and look at silver and gold have provided security for people, not just for the last 10 years, not just for the last 100 years, but for literally thousands and thousands of years. Silver and gold have, you talk about geopolitical events that are unfolding, and we could dive into the details of all that. But I think most of our viewers know what's going on in the world.
Absolutely. Yep.
But the reality is, silver and gold they've seen this show before, not just once, not just twice, but hundreds of thousands of times. Whether you're talking about, they have endured every type of political system. They've endured every type of economic system: capitalism, socialism, communism. They've endured times of war, times of peace. They've just always held their value. How's that?
Yeah,
Did we figure it all out?
Yeah, I mean, I think it speaks for itself. And to piggyback on that, just to say, I look at my course, of my career, of my day job, and all the money that I was putting into my 401k. When I think about the percentages out of my salary that I was putting in and how much was in the market and blah, blah, blah. If I look back and think, if I would have taken all that money from years ago back then and just been buying gold and silver, I mean, especially back when the prices were, silver was $4 something an ounce and gold was 300 or 800, even, back during those times. If I would have been investing my money that way, how much more I would really have right now compared to, what's in the stock market. And then what's in the stock market, you never know whether that's going to, first of all, we know it's, as you would say, unicorn fart dust anyway. So we know it's not even real. But, on top of it, I just think to myself, man, if I would have been doing that my whole life and having that kind of, put away, buying gold at 350 an ounce, where I would be today, I would maybe sell some and live off it, as the times are changing. So I found that to be an interesting thing. And, in regard to that, why do you think people, I'm trying to understand it myself, why are people so afraid of it? Or I guess we're just so conditioned and programmed by our mainstream society in a sense, right? Everybody's caught up in Netflix.
I can cut you off. It's funny you say that, because this guy Bill was leaving. We talked about that. 99% of the people in the United States, as long as they have their Netflix and their McDonald's, right, they're happy, right? They're asleep, right? And I won't go down this rabbit hole, but I will say that I do believe that in 1971, when President Richard Nixon temporarily took us off the gold standard, it was only going to be temporary, right? Because they needed to print money. But I believe at that point, I look at it like a divorce. They divorced the US dollar from gold and silver. And typically, it's been my experience that through observation, that when the divorce occurs, the two parties that divorce themselves from each other usually aren't big fans of each other. So I think that there's been at minimum, a bias against silver and gold in the United States. And on top of that, the mainstream financial services industry wants nothing to do with silver and gold, because it's not the most conducive vehicle for them to make recurring commissions and make money off of. Possibly that has something to do with it. Now, I want to talk about something else, if that's okay, real quickly.
Sure.
Because something else that you mentioned, circle back to the market. I guess I could sit here and say, oh, the market's going to crash, Peter. The market's going to crash. I don't know, right? I mean, actually, I probably would have said that 10 years ago, and I was dead wrong. So I'm not giving financial advice. I know you're not giving financial advice either. But last night I listened to a guy named Tavi Costa, who's a Brazilian investment manager. I think the smartest guy in the world right now. Well, he was last night when I listened to him. But I just want to point out a couple quick statistics about what's going on in the market right now, okay? There's what they're referring to as very narrow leadership in the markets. We've got two companies, Apple and Microsoft, okay, that make up 15% of all the value of the S&P 500. So, not everyone's as sophisticated when it comes to knowledge of the markets, but basically what that means is that Apple and Microsoft make up, what is that, 1/6 of all the value of the S&P 500, which is the largest stock market index that we have in the United States, probably the world. Those two companies combined are more than 3 times the size of the entire energy sector. In energy, oil is the lifeblood of the world economy. And what's really interesting, to circle back to silver and gold, is that metals and miners make up 1/5 of 1% of the entire S&P 500 market cap. So I guess the problem we have now, and I'll tell a quick story, then I promise I'll zip it.
No, it's okay.
Is I remember the tech bubble, when the tech bubble burst. Okay, everybody, a lot of our viewers that are with us right now will remember in year, what is it, 2000, 2001. I was in the tech industry. I was not exposed to the stocks, but a lot of my friends and coworkers were, and they got wiped out. The tech bubble burst. Okay, Scott McNealy was the CEO of a company called Sun Microsystems, which was one of the tech bubble stocks. And they interviewed him a few years after the tech bubble burst. And you can Google this and find it for yourself, any of our viewers. And when they interviewed him after the tech bubble burst, he said, "I found it astonishing that in the year 1999, basically in the period leading up to when the tech bubble burst, that the value of my company's stock was trading at 10 times the sales level." Okay, so what that means is the market cap of the company was equal to 10 times the annual sales level of the company. And he said that was ridiculous. It was crazy. I thought it was crazy at the time. It'd be like if we, for the next 10 years, had no expenses and returned every penny that we made in sales. It would take 10 years to give people their money back, which isn't realistic anyway. But how crazy it was. And the point that I want to make is that right now, if you look at a lot of these tech companies, they're at, or I haven't looked lately, but as of a month or so ago, they were already at those same nosebleed levels. So we could be in a bubble. I'm sorry, this is not a show about stock markets and bubbles, but
I like bubbles.
Yeah, I like bubbles too. But when people talk about silver and gold, that's real. It's tangible. There is no counterparty. Right? You hold it. If you own some silver right now, I've got a silver heart here, a 3-ounce silver heart. And, that's mine. It's real. It's tangible. I'm not relying on you. I'm not relying on a bank. I'm not relying on a brokerage. I'm not relying on anybody to give me that value. I've got the value right here.
Right. And, that's what gets me into when I go into my deeper things. Like I do go down the rabbit holes a little bit, and obviously it makes sense, right? They wouldn't want people to have that type of material in their possessions because it takes the third party aspect out of it, which means, you're free, basically. You're a free sovereign human being, and I look at, how I know some people don't like to believe, I watch a lot of different things and they say, oh, the markets aren't really manipulated or anything. And I don't know how people don't think they could be, but I mean, anyway, but not to go down that way, but even also to say, I get into some of this stuff with the Epstein and the Epstein Island and Epstein's connection to JP Morgan and how JP Morgan's running all their, all his money and stuff at Epstein and the connection they have. And, when that stuff comes out and, I get deep into it a little bit, as far as I look at everything as like just a piece of the entire puzzle. Like we can look at gold and silver and say, when or why, when will it come to its true potential or why does it not, but ultimately it's the entire system. And I think an important thing for people to really know, and maybe even for your viewers as well, who are just more focused on gold and silver, but, and it might sound scary. I don't find it scary, but it might sound scary, but I don't think we're really going to see that level of prosperity with the metals or that level of freedom in our lives until the system that's currently in place collapses. I don't mean that in a doom and gloom way that we have to go have nuclear war and everything has to totally shut down. But like anything, human being, the nature of human beings and our behavior, we don't make changes unless something really happens, right? Unless something inconveniences our day-to-day life. And the number one thing to get people to do anything is when something happens with their money. Just like you kind of said earlier, show up one day and you can't get your Starbucks. Oh my God, the world's done,
Yeah. And I think people are starting to wake up. I mean, we're living in a fantasy world right now, a world of smoke and mirrors, right? And it's working. Everybody's kind of in a trance. It seems like possibly, maybe I'm wrong, right? Maybe this is the new reality. I thought of this the other day, and I'll take credit. I coined this phrase, like, like it's everybody falls for the smoke and mirrors until they realize that the whole funhouse is on fire. Then they run for the exits, right?
That's a great analogy. Yep.
And there's a reason too, Peter. People are scared. People are know something's going on. People are angry. I think people are sad, and to a certain degree as well. I'm sad. I'm a real sensitive guy, and I'll say it's kind of sad about what's going on. Like the world that I'm leaving my children into is a scary thing. There's a reason. Let me ask you this question, and I'll ask our viewer as well. Do you think, right, like the foundation of the United States, this document that we all were forced at the time in high school to study and to read, the U.S. Constitution, the founding fathers of our country put specific language into the Constitution about silver and gold and people's right to use it as legal tender? Do you think that maybe they foresaw what troubles, challenges that the country could get itself into? Because I'll add this other point to that as well. And he's not one of the founding fathers, as far as I know. I'm not a history guru, but Thomas Jefferson, right, who is also well respected in our country, explicitly said that the biggest threat to our country is not necessarily an invading army, but central banking and large corporations. I didn't say it. I don't want to get in trouble, but Thomas Jefferson said it. So if Thomas Jefferson said it, I mean, what is that telling us about this predicament
right.
that we find ourselves in? And people are starting to wake up. Bill Hardwick, the Missouri rep that I just had here in the basement, had a great story. This is hilarious, Peter. This will make it worth everyone joining us today. I know you love comedy. He said one of his constituents told him, that he's getting stronger and stronger as he gets older. And do you want to know why that guy said that to him?
Why?
He said because now he can carry $300 worth of groceries out of the grocery store without any help. I mean, you get it?
Yeah.
Right? Like $300 worth of groceries used to take 2 carts. Now it takes like 3 bags.
Yeah, if you're lucky. So, yeah, right. No, it's the truth. And, even just to say that further, like in combination with the banks and stuff, even George Washington basically said about avoiding foreign entanglements, and you see everything that we do, we've blown both of those things, right? As far as, what Thomas Jefferson said and what George Washington said. And that's one of the things that always perplexed me. I mean, even aside from monetarily and everything, is why we've never, focused on, just from me growing up, I know we're close to the same age. And I always would think that of like, why are we spend so much worrying about what everybody else is doing? Why do we not fix what needs to be fixed here? I mean, we have an endless resources in this country, and people willing to work. And, so because it just, there's really not a question. It speaks for itself because things are manipulated and there's things going on behind the scenes. I always say the people who are really running things are people that we don't even know who they are, if they exist. We've never even heard of them, like all the people we see on TV, whether it be the political leaders or the corporate leaders and everything else, they're all just the puppets put in place to, to put on the show, as you say, or it's showtime, and to keep everybody distracted, while ultimately it always comes down to money, and everyone's always trying to manipulate the population to keep people down,
We know a couple things for sure, Peter, right? We know that when you look at things like distribution of wealth in this country, we know that the top 1%, the top 1% of the top 1%, however you want to slice it or dice it, we know that a lion's share of the wealth of this country has been transferred from the middle class to the upper class. And whether you want to look at the top 3 richest guys in the country or the world, or you want to look about the top 1% or the top 2% or whatever, however you want to slide it, and you don't have to go any further than any middle class area here in the United States, and talk to anyone who's working and trying to raise a family or just working and trying to survive, and they will tell you that they feel it, that it's going on, that surviving is becoming much more difficult. Look, we didn't cause it, but it's just kind of the reality of the world that we're living in right now.
Yep.
And why it happened or how it happened. I mean,
I think
don't
it's
know.
generational.
Maybe.
I think it's generational, though. Like personally, I think it's like the people who really control the means of things. They're not looking at 10 years out, 20 years out. They're looking generationally, right? If it's, if you want to go down that conspiracy way a little bit that I do, if you want to believe that there's groups of families that are, running everything and have privilege to higher technologies and stuff that we're not really aware of, it's easy for them to. They don't care. I was just talking about this yesterday. I'm just saying, like, how do you get people to do stuff? To me, I always start like back in the 40s, like my mom's age. My mom was born in 48, and that's when TV first came into the houses. And it starts with that. All of a sudden, people have a box in their house where they can watch a show, but there's only a couple shows and people gather around. Next thing you know, it's 24-hour programming. Next thing you know, everybody's got a TV. Then you got portable TVs, and same thing with the phones. You got a phone. Finally, you get your own phone in your house instead of like a party line or something. Then you get like a wireless phone. Then it turns into a cell phone. And, I'm just saying it's like this little bit over time that just gets people like, used to looking over here instead of over here. I kind of see it that way. And just to mention, I saw this article today. I don't know if you heard this or not, but I see that Warren Buffett is selling 28.7 billion in stocks. And it's the article. This is from Newsweek. So I don't know if you've seen that article or not, but when you see somebody like Warren Buffett selling off $28.7 billion in stocks, I mean, well, if the market's so good, I mean, it's only been climbing like crazy for the past like month or something, right? So why would he do that, right? So I don't know, just kind of things to think about.
Yeah, and Jamie Dimon from J.P. Morgan, I think he's selling 1 million shares, he announced, of J.P. Morgan. People are like, well, why would he be selling 1 million shares of the company that he's still the CEO of?
Right.
I think that, everybody I talk to thinks that 2024 could prove to be a very, very interesting year on many fronts. We have a confluence of worldwide geopolitical events that are occurring. We're going into an election year here in the United States, which by all indications appears to be maybe one of the most contentious and feels like could be ripe for even some social issues here in the United States. We've got a country, Peter. We've got a country that has so much debt. Okay, so much debt, 34 trillion in debt, and we're adding another trillion with deficit spending every year. And we've got interest rates that are going up on that, all this debt that needs to be refinanced. We are in a debt doom loop in this country. Now, I have a degree in accounting. I understand how interest works. I understand how money works. Mathematically, they say that when you get to the level we are we past the point of no return? I don't know. Maybe some miracle will occur. Maybe through force, we'll be able to right our path. But one thing we do know for sure, that the financial condition that we find ourselves in right now in the United States is typically only associated with being just after periods of major war in the world, right? Like we just came out of World War II, or that we're coming out of a depression. So we're heading into what appears to be potentially some stormy waters, and we're already in a pretty cruddy situation. Does that make sense? Absolutely. That's why I'm so optimistic, Peter, about the future.
No, me too. Believe me, I agree. It's just as crazy as it sounds. Me too. It can't get much worse, right? I always say this, like, let's get it over with. I don't care whether it's a nuke, whether it's an asteroid, the dinosaurs come back to life, whatever they need to do to shake things up and get things moving and start fresh. I'm all about it. But I know our time's a little bit limited, so just a couple things I want to mention before I have a couple fun questions for you. But one thing is, I'm not sure if you ever heard of Bo Ploney, and he does Goldcast 2020 or Gold something 2020. He's more on the religious side of things. He does biblical. He relates it back to the Bible and all. And which I'm not a big studier of the Bible. Nothing against any religion, obviously, or anything. But it's very interesting to listen to him speak. And he talks about these 50-year cycles and such. And he relates back. And even goes back to 1971. And then it took until 1973 until we got to this point. And now we're at this 50-year cycle. And he talks about by the end of this month, that, stuff should be really moving. I don't know. We don't do predictions, right? Because you can give dates and all that kind of thing. But I don't know. I find hope in it a little bit sometimes. Like just from listening to it, it makes me feel happy, so I don't know if I'm being, misled or not, but something, if you wanted to ever check that out, his messages are pretty interesting. And a matter of fact, he just had Andy Schenkman on his show not too long ago.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. So
Andy's a good guy. I've had Andy on my show. Andy Scheckman, in my opinion, now he owns Miles Franklin, right? So he is a gold and silver salesman. But I forget who I was talking to last night, another really smart guy, and we were talking about Andy and like how he comes onto my show and he's not trying to sell silver and gold, right? He's really trying to help people. And he really is. It's genuine. It's 100% genuine. Andy Scheckman is like a real, I would say, almost servant to the people, trying to help people make sense of what's going on. And he has an ability to explain things at a much better level than a guy like me about what's going on geopolitically in the world, and really, really genuinely trying to help people. I think it speaks to his character that he's not, you intuitively know that his main objective is to help people. And I think that's a great thing.
I agree. I've seen him. He's one of the first I kind of found for a while, like, he on Arcadia Economics and, with Bix and stuff too, so, and I enjoy Bix. He's fun in the way he goes about his thing too. And I give him credit, I give all you guys credit for, it's hard to come on every day and the same thing, gold, silver, it's up, it's down, it's up, it's down. What's going on? It's like, that's why I like to talk about so many things. I think I go crazy if my brain's too much to talk about one thing. But also wanted to mention, I saw your show the other day with the representatives from Florida, and I want to let you know I saved that video so that I can go back. I want to send one of those emails that they were talking about to help push that legislation forward.
So let me mention that real quickly. There's a wave of legislation sweeping the nation, legal tender legislation that would allow certain states and certain residents of those states to reclaim, and I want to use the word reclaim because, as we spoke about earlier, it's in the U.S. Constitution,
right,
their rights to use silver and gold as legal tender. Florida is one of them. You guys, I think you're in Florida.
Yes.
You've got some great representatives there. You also have a guy named Daniel Diaz, who's with the Citizens for Sound Money. And New Hampshire's doing this. There's a guy named Jim Forsyth is the the director, the executive director, or the chairman. I forget. He's the top guy, as I understand it, at Citizens for Sound Money. Daniel Diaz, who lives in Florida, is the executive director. We've got a number of states that have already passed legal tender legislation, but another growing number of states, including Missouri, where I live, and we have a guy named Pat Holland, who I bet at some point you might be able to get on your show, Peter, as well. Pat is another.
Yeah, I've watched your.
Yeah, he runs the Missouri Freedom Initiative. So there's a lot. If people want to get involved, right, at a grassroots level, the opportunity's there. Sorry,
no, that's great. No, I agree. I think it's awesome to see that that's even coming to fruition. Like, and if I wasn't into it myself, I would be in something else I wouldn't even be paying attention to. But just to see how the pieces are coming together are, I think it's awesome. I look forward to the day I can take my bars of silver down someplace and deposit it, and have however they're going to do it through a card, or like how they were talking about the Florida representatives, how they were speaking about.
Well, they're talking about asset-backed digital currencies. Asset, not CBDCs,
right.
Not central bank digital currencies, not cryptocurrencies, asset backed. That's the key, digital currency. So asset backed means there's state depositories that hold silver and gold. There's a digital currency that allows you to have a direct representation of that actual metal that's regulated, audited, transparent, and that it's also, so you can use it gives the opportunity to make silver and gold functional so that you can use it at the grocery store, restaurant, whatever. But at the same time, if you want your silver and gold back, you can go to the depository and say, here's my digital token. And people always think crypto. No, this is 100% backed by real metal. So it's very interesting. Do you want me to ring the gong? And you haven't said anything. You haven't said anything about my gold jacket. I
Well,
wore a gold special.
I didn't want to listen. I missed the red shirt personally. You know what I'm saying? So I mean, I
I
think
got the red shirts right here.
I mean,
I'm now starting. For those of you who don't know, for 2 years I wore nothing but this grimy old red shirt. You can probably smell it through the camera. But now I'm cutting off little pieces and sending it to people.
You're stepping it up a notch. You know, I can barely wear a shirt and tie if I have to go to a funeral or a wedding, so I give you credit. Now, hold on. I know our time's really up, so I want to have like 2-3 quick little fun questions. And then first, I just want to know, do people really complain about the bells?
Yep. Bells here, right?
That cowbell's the best, man. That's hilarious when you start slow and then you it just cracks me up.
Hey, you know what's special about this cowbell is, you know, we talked about this earlier. We almost forgot, Peter. It's not just me and you. There's somebody watching right now. And this guy, Joe F., who's one of my regular viewers and subscribers, I live right on the banks of the Missouri River here in St. Louis, Missouri, and he works at the big 100-year-old water plant. And he said, I was in Oklahoma, and I was at a farm store, and I found this bell, and he brought it by the house. And then, you know, so that's what's special about the bells. And if people don't like the bells, I warn them, right? Because even now I understand, Peter, because I had these earbuds in, and you were honking all that stuff, and I'm like, wow, now I know why.
I got it.
People complain.
Yeah, there you go. It's annoying, right?
Yeah.
Wait, so
you annoyed me. You annoyed me.
I annoyed you.
I mean, it's bad enough. I always say, like, I torture people having to listen to me for a half hour or an hour, and then on top of that, I'm ringing bells. I guess maybe it's relative. After I ring the bells, they think, well, maybe he's not so annoying after all.
The last time you were on, some people complained about my lights because I used to keep these lights that are behind me. I used to keep them on the table, and they were flashing faster. Yeah. And they were, people complained, and I said, you know what? Somebody's giving me some feedback, so that's why I put them behind me just to give a little ambiance, but try not to make them as distracting. So I do want to know this: do you ever fear any sort of incarceration for your treatment of the bears in the basement? Blindfolded and trapped in the basement. No.
Yeah, I know there's hardly, with my giant head, and then there's nothing but bears. So we have the platinum bear, 2,500 platinum.
That's for Neil.
Smitty, the silver bear, he's 85.
85.
And then we have the gold bear, he's 2,500. All those bears will have their blindfolds removed when their respective medals hit the price that's on their blindfold.
Excellent. Well, I have one last question for you today. I want to know, have you ever physically seen Coin Shop Chris eat a ding dong? And if so, is it true that you are what you eat?
Oh, Coin Shop Chris and his ding dong. Yeah, no, but I've heard him eat the ding dongs. Okay. I have to give him a hard time. Coin Shop Chris, for those of you who don't know, is a character on my show, and a great friend and a great ally of Ron's Basement, and just a great guy and a great ally of everybody in the gold and silver community. He remains anonymous, but he does exist. I can tell you that for sure. And there's a reason why he remains anonymous. That has to do with the coin shop that he works at. And anyway,
yeah, sure.
He's a great guy. Sometimes when I'm interviewing him, I'll hear him and I'll say, Chris, I can't understand what you said. Did you just stick another ding dong in your mouth? Because he loves Hostess ding dongs, and they've not sponsored the channel. I've had Weber Seasonings, right? Expressed some interest in other. But I keep saying Hostess, like, come on, man, I'm giving you like the free advertising.
That's right. I bet
we've sold an extra 1 million ding dongs.
So, Chris is welcome here anytime too. If he's ever interested to come on and talk, he can do that. He can do that too if he wants to.
Coin Shop Chris?
Yeah, Coin Shop
he's
Chris.
Famous. He's become more famous than me. I told him it was going to happen. I'm like, Chris, you know what's going to happen. You're going to be more famous than me. So we'll see if we can get Coin Shop Chris to come on. He will not have his camera on. You'll have to look at a stuffed bear or
that's
something
okay.
like that.
No, that's fine. I appreciate that. That's okay. He can just do the voice. That's no problem. But listen, Ron, I know your time is limited, and I want to thank you so much for being here with me today on Operation Status Quo. Any final thoughts or messages you'd like to share with the audience before I let you go today?
No, but everybody, please. I believe this about you, Peter. I met you, I don't know, 2 months ago. that you have a good heart and that you care about your viewers. And I know you've been working very hard. Do live streams like how many times a week are you out
Five. I
here?
do every Monday through Friday, sometime around this time of the day. Yes. Five. Yeah.
Yeah,
Five
yeah.
days a week.
So press the thumbs up button, right? It should
Oh,
be somewhere right down below the
I
screen
would
because
appreciate
that
it.
helps
My
Peter get the word out. Subscribe to his channel and be nice to each other. I
Yeah.
guess I would say,
Yeah. Be nice.
be nice to yourselves. And then, that's a good start. I found that when I'm generally nice to myself, I have an easier time being nice to others. And I
Well,
really appreciate you having me back on, Peter. You're a good man,
thank you.
and I'll look forward to seeing you next time.
All right. Sounds great, Ron. Thanks again for your time. You have a great day.
All right, Peter.
All
Thanks.
right. Okay. And there he goes, ladies and gentlemen. Ron. Whoops, I pushed the wrong button there. Where's my other camera? There it is. Ron from Ron's Basement. Make sure you check him out on YouTube. Ladies and gentlemen, he's on there. He said he's going to do a video every day for the rest of his life. So I'm going to be checking in and make sure he holds true to that. And I'm going to keep doing videos too, so you can check us both out and make sure we're holding true to that. So anyway, ladies and gentlemen, I thank you as I always do so much for your time here on Operation Status Quo. If you haven't done so already, please like, subscribe, share, send this out to your friends, your family, those you love, and of course, those you despise as well. I love each and every one of you out there. God bless. Have a great day. And until tomorrow, Operation Status Quo disengaged.